Welcome to the Strategic Veteran, where we chart the course from service to civilian triumph. I'm Adam Peters, a veteran, entrepreneur, and your fellow navigator in the quest for a life of impact and fulfillment. My mission is simple: to empower you with the tools and stories that turn challenge into opportunity. Having walked the path from active duty to where I stand now, I understand the search for purpose that comes with hanging up the uniform. It's a path I've walked, with its trials, its tribulations, and its victories, and it's a journey we're on together. This podcast is more than just conversation. It's a beacon for those seeking to redefine our missions through entrepreneurship. It's about igniting the entrepreneurial spirit that lives within us, the spirit that compels us to create, lead, and make our mark on the world. Here we connect with veterans who have built businesses, sparked change, and found their purpose in the marketplace of ideas. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. They've transformed their service into startups, their experiences into enterprises, and they're proof that you can too. So whether you're scribbling business plans on napkins or stepping into the arena of innovation, remember, you're not alone. You're in good company. So let's explore these stories of transformation and take the first steps together on our path to purpose. Let's begin. Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran Podcast, where we celebrate resilience, navigate the complexities of military to civilian transitions, and explore the journey of growth after service. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and as always, I'm thrilled to have you join us today. Now, every once in a while, we meet someone whose story and mission shine a light on what it truly means to lead with purpose, serve others, and empower those who've walked the path of military service. Today's guest is exactly that kind of person. I'm honored to welcome Justin Henderson to the podcast. Justin's journey begins in a small village of just 320 people, where the concept of tight-knit community and servant leadership was instilled in him at an early age, values that have carried him through the decades of service and impact. Justin served as a motor transport officer in the Marine Corps Reserve, where discipline, direction, and a commitment to something greater than himself became the foundation for his future. From earning a degree in economics at the University of Pittsburgh to building a 19-year career dedicated to helping veterans transition successfully into civilian careers, Justin's path has been marked by resilience, innovation, and an unwavering commitment to his fellow veterans. He's the founder of Veteran Hiring Solutions, a groundbreaking organization that's reimagining how companies connect with veteran talent. Justin believes that one of the greatest barriers for veterans in the job market is something as simple as and critical as the job description. Through performance based on video-driven job descriptions, he's bridging the gap, ensuring that veterans have a clear picture of the roles and opportunities available to them. And it doesn't stop there. His Mission Empower platform, a fully AI-enabled career transition program, offers veterans a safe, tailored space to explore career paths and hone the skills required to thrive in corporate America. But Justin's story isn't just about professional achievements. It's also deeply personal. From his early loss of a stepfather to his reflections on what it means to forge your own path after service, Justin's insights on discipline, community, and self-reliance offer wisdom that goes beyond the workplace. Today, we're going to dive into Justin's innovative approach to veteran hiring, the profound impact of video-based job descriptions, how advanced AI tools are transforming career transitions, and perhaps most importantly, his practical advice for veterans who are navigating the big chapter. So whether you're a veteran seeking clarity and direction, an employer looking to better serve your veteran workforce, or simply someone fascinated by the power of resilience and growth, you won't want to miss this conversation. Stay tuned. There's a lot to unpack. You're about to walk away inspired. So let's get started. Justin, brother, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show, my man.
Well, Adam, I got to tell you, thanks for that intro.
Hey, it's all you, brother. It's all you.
You make me sound good.
Yeah, brother.
I want to say first, motor transport operator. I think you said officer. I was an E4 when I got out. So yeah. You don't want to make sure I wasn't in charge of much, but I had a lot of fun. And then I earned my degree in economics while I was in the Marine Corps Reserve at the time. So thank you.
Well,
this is exciting.
Let's start your journey off, man. You grew up in a tiny little village, your words, of 320 people. Yeah. So where did you grow up and what inspired you to join?
Yeah, I don't think people realize that there are still villages in the United States. So I grew up in a village of 320 people. We didn't have a police force. It was a volunteer fire department. You had one town, you had one market, we had one gas station, which was the one I grew up on top of, my stepfather owned. And community was the center of growing up. There was every family held other families accountable. And there was a time where you did something wrong, whatever guy got to you first got you. And it was, you realize when I left that community that how much I had learned from those people about the value of community and sacrifice. My I had two uncles in Vietnam. I had a grandfather that was in the Korean War, and when my you'd mentioned my stepfather passing when I was in high school, he passed when I was a senior in a car wreck. I realized I need discipline. I need some type of focus because a male at that age can go one of two ways. And so I decided to follow the leadership of my uncles and the people before me, and I joined the Marine Corps Reserve. I'm the first one in my family to join the Marine Corps. Of course, my Army and Air Force family members had their own input of where I should go. And I'll tell you, I think the biggest eye-opening moment for me once I joined the military was before I even left to go to Paris Island. I sat down with my grandfather, who was a tanker in the Korean War. He was promoted 3 times in 3 months because he was the one that stayed alive in his tank. And it was before PTSD was known,
Yeah, they called it
but
shell shock back then, right?
and he would just sit there staring off into space, touching the butt of his Lucky Strike all day. And once I signed up for the Marine Corps, he downloaded every combat experience into my brain and said, "That's what you just signed up for. Good luck." So the responsibility of what I had signed up for was put on me by my family early on. Um, I was lucky enough to, after service, to get into this job. And once I got into this job, I really saw, man, the heroes out there and just the people that are willing to sacrifice it all. And I think that's where my passion came through. It wasn't through my service itself. It was through getting to know those that served and that really, really served and sacrificed and gave it all that really created this passion in me.
Yeah, brother. So you said you were the first in your family to join the Marines. Why the Marines? Did you look at other branches? Was it just an act of rebellion because everybody else was Navy or Army or whatever it looks like, or was it the
It could have
uniforms?
just
Like,
blues. I don't know.
yeah,
But
that's what I
no,
hear from all the Marines that come on here. It's always the uniform. It's
what
always the uniform.
it attracts your eyes to it, because it stands out. But really, for me, is I felt like in that moment in time, I was in such a place in my head that I needed to be beaten hard. And I needed to be really prove to myself what I was capable of and what I could do. And that's what kind of drew me to Paris Island was, hey, you know what? If I can go there, and I can get out of there, I know I can accomplish what I want to have to. So I think that's what it was. The uniform one, but two, just the challenge that it looked like it was going to be called to me.
I think that's fair. I do. I remember when I shipped to basic training, from Louisville MEPS and all that, and all of the branches are kind of together, and you hear the whispers of like, I've heard what basic training is going to be like, and there was a bunch of Air Force and a bunch of Navy, and there was was the only Army guy, and then there was two guys that were Marines, and we were all like in a corner, cowered, like like everybody else's basic training experiences that they're talking about sounds easy compared to what we know we're about to go through. So
Yep.
I think that tracks completely, man, because I can even remember the Marine recruiters talking about, basic training. Oh, that'll get you right. That'll square you away, that kind of shit. So it's awesome. Now, I am curious, why just the reserves? Why not active duty? If you knew you needed this discipline and you
Mm-hmm.
needed some direction, and I'm not knocking why you
No, no.
chose it at all. I'm curious because for somebody like me, like I have to jump in with both feet. So if I need direction and I need discipline and all of that, highly doubt reserves or guard is going to work for me because I'm still going to end up back in my hometown around the environment that's causing all of the problems. So I'm just curious, man.
Great question. Great question. So, and it happened, what you just said. So for me, it was about the challenge, overcoming that challenge, and then two, the GI Bill. So this was 1994. So I'm going, hey, I want to go to college. I know I can't afford it. I know my family can't afford it. We've lost our income, the person that was bringing in that income. And we're pretty much just going downhill as far as financially. So my goal was, hey, how do I get that? How do I get an opportunity to go to college?
Right.
Well, the Marine Corps is going to give me the kick in the butt I need. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
give me the discipline I need, and then it's going to give me the GI Bill that can get me into college.
Right.
So that's why I did it. And then when I came back, what you said just happened. I came back right back to my house.
Yeah.
My mother had relocated. She was living in West Virginia at the time. She was because she had to continue her path. She had to start a job. She had to work on her career to support herself. So there I am in the house that I lived in growing up alone, 19 years old, right back where I started. So I spent about a year floundering, not understanding what I was going to do. And then I was able to save up enough money to get that first apartment in Pittsburgh so I could start going to the University of Pittsburgh. So that first year was just, I didn't realize, well, you got to have money to pay for an apartment and pay for all these things on the front end. And then the GI Bill will give you money.
Yeah.
So it was totally different back then than it is after September 11th. So that's why I joined the reserves. And it took about a year and a half for me to get out of that funk of coming right back after a year and a half of training to get to Pittsburgh. That's
For
a great
sure.
question.
That leads me kind of to another question. Did you even consider an ROTC program at the time?
Not only did I not consider it, I went in undesignated.
Oh no. Oh no. You were
That
needs
shows
of the
you
Marine Corps?
That shows you how little I thought about it. And I was singularly focused, right? There was no asking anybody for directions. There was no asking family members.
It was
I
just
went
do
right.
it.
I went to Staff Sergeant Johnson, my Marine recruiter. I said, I want to go to the Marine Corps. Now I went in MP originally, but I'm colorblind. And they caught that colorblind at MEPS. And they said, well, you got to go back. And I said, well, there's no way I can go back home.
Right.
I pretty much burned every bridge on the way out, just having some fun. And so I said, just send me. And they said, okay. And so they sent me. I went to Paris Island, and it was just like you see in a Full Metal Jacket, right? At graduation time, they start telling you, oh, you're going to be a what? You're going to be a what? Henderson, culinary specialist.
Nope.
I
Not
said,
doing
what? So I
that.
went to Fort Lee as a culinary specialist. This is 96. This is back when it was join the Marine Corps, go to jail. So, there was a lot of gang members in my group, a lot of gang members in Paris Island, even at Fort Lee. I remember some interesting events. And then once I got done with culinary school, I said, well, I can't be a cook. Can I be something else? No offense. It's just not for me. And so they said, well, hey, there's a motor transport unit near where you're from. Do you want to be a motor transport operator? I said, sure, I'll be a truck driver. So then I went there as a truck driver. Well, I'm 6'5". So they looked at me and went, hold this. And so I held the saw for a while, and they said, oh, you're doing really good. Hold this. And then I had the
240.
golf.
Yep.
And they said, hey, hold this. Then I had the 50 cal. Then they said, by the end, I was on the Mark 19.
There we go.
I ended up that was my main point. I was automatic rifleman. And then I'd gotten sergeant, but I didn't stay in for the full year. So I came out as an E4.
Okay. So anything that you can think of, I don't like to dig too deep into people's careers because that's really not what this show is about. I just try to give the highlight reels of of the veterans' careers, and because I think it's important, because it shapes all of the things that you're fixing to go through. So what are some of the significant highlight reels of your career that really stand out that you kind of carry with you today?
Well, as far as my career itself as a reservist, there was the 2 weeks active duty of CAX training and 29 Palms and stories like that. But I don't really feel that my service is what really drives me to this point. I think it's my exposure to those that have served so much that has driven me to this point. It's 19 years of hearing the stories. 19 years of giving a veteran an offer and hearing the spouse scream in the background, like, oh my God, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
19 years of that E3, E4, love you, Joe Schmuckatelli, but going, hey, I just got out. I bought a house in my hometown. I have no job. What should I do? And my wife's pregnant. You're like, wait a minute here.
How did we get here? Yeah, right.
And being able to help those people overcome that, I wouldn't say mistake, but overcoming that now they've got that narrow window of failure, right? Because they've got to find a good career within that geographical area that they can commute to. So I think it's not that my service really built something in me. The Paris Island, combat training, all that, yeah, great stories. Buddies sleeping on the back of a 5-ton truck and stuff like that. But really, what has built Hendo to who he is today is the 19 years of serving the community.
I love that, man. So You only spent 6 years in the Marine Corps Reserves, and this is kind of the biggest section of the show that I like to spend a lot of time on, whether it was good, bad, ugly, indifferent. But moving into the transition, so what led you to the decision, to hang it up after 6 years?
Well, it wasn't an MOS that I was interested in. It wasn't like there's so many people that I met that followed their purpose right through service.
Mhm.
Right, my purpose was parasite island combat training,
So you
and
you
which
had
is why I did.
accomplished your purpose from really the get go. Like you had accomplished what you had set out to do with serving in the military just by completing basic training, essentially.
Yeah, it was the basic training, combat training at Camp Geiger. That was like, hey, okay, I did it. I made it through. Wow, I'm a higher performing human, and now I have expanded what I realize I am capable of both mentally and physically.
Yeah, so
That's
you
what
get a
that
bigger
training does.
perspective on the world. You can now look at the world in a way that you wouldn't have been able to see the world before that experience. I relate to
Yeah.
that a ton. I think anybody who goes through basic training, in fact, our second or third, fourth, something like that guest on the show, Marcos Eugenios, talked about this. Basic training is not an experience that you can put to words. Like you just can't really understand what happens to you as an individual, to you as a group of people that you're going through until you actually go through it. And I actually have to agree with him. Like I've tried to think about how would I explain this to, somebody who comes to me for advice on how to make it through basic training. And it's like, I can't put to words what you're going to learn, through this experience about yourself, about others, about how life works, just so much. Would you agree with that?
Well, first of all good growth is felt,
Yeah, correct.
and you have to feel it. And I think that's what basic training does. It gives you the feels, right? You feel a lot of things, positive or negative, you feel them. So I 100% agree with that. And that's why, so when you're in the military, you realize selection works, right? You're okay with a challenge because you understand the value of that challenge. It's the journey. The results are that shadow wall and all that you got, that shadow box, but the journey is what built who you are. So I 100% agree with that.
That's great, man. So you 6 years time to get out. Not in love with the MOS. I can't say that I blame you. I got attached to an 88 Mike platoon for one of my deployments, where as an infantry guy, there was three of us pulling security for all the log packs and all of that. And I was like, this would never be a job for me. I want to go back to kicking doors in and. So how did that look? How did your transition look? Was it rough? Were you preparing?
Well,
Did you know that you needed to prepare?
yeah, well, I did my 6 years. Again, this is before September 11th, right? So we're not in some type of, when I joined in 1994, people came up and giving me condolences. I'm sorry, man, you couldn't get a job. Oh, I'm sorry, you got to go to the military. September 11th hits, you're a hero
Yeah, that's
immediately.
crazy. That's the
So
antithesis of what I
right,
expect.
it's a different bridge, man. It was a different bridge back 94, 95. A lot of my Marine buddies were convicts or in and out, and so it's just a different time. Now, when I graduated in 2004 with my degree in economics, I had managed restaurants. To pay bills throughout my time. And so I applied to other roles, but I still didn't, I had no awareness of what I wanted. I mean, the site aperture was so small for me. I wasn't engaging my career counselors at school, that typical male, not going to ask for directions, just going to go. So I ended up managing a restaurant in Newport News, Virginia. Hey, it was a small chain of restaurants. They said, hey, we'll train you in North Carolina, and then we'll move you to Newport News. And they showed me how close Newport News was to the beach. And they said, look, you'll be right by the beach. I said, great, let's go.
Not
And
knowing
so
that you're
while I
never
was,
going to have time to go to the beach.
and you had to cross over the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, and good luck doing all that. But it was a very dense military area. So I was able to meet a lot of military people and really assimilate into that community that I wasn't a part of as a reservist, because you're going to those couple days and then you're going back in a civilian world. And it was like a bad joke. Three Marines walked into my bar, and all three Marines got their jobs through a placement service. And I said, "Oh, who's that placement service?" And they informed me. And then I went and I applied to them, and they said, "Hey, well, you have no technical aptitude, but we'll offer you a sales job." I said, "Great, I'll take it." And 19 years later, here I am.
Dude, this
And
is
that's where it all
great.
started.
This is great because you started by saying something. You said your perspective of what you wanted to do and who you were was about this big. And over almost 100 of these, and just talking to 20, 30 people a week that are veterans in the transition space, the number one thing that I see that people make a mistake on is we lose our identity and our purpose when we get out. Period. End of story. That's the first thing that happens. And I personally, for me, I think it happens for a lot of different reasons, but I think the main reason is in most cases, you take somebody like myself. I joined in 2002 at the age of 17. I shipped to basic training a month after I graduated high school. And then I did not get out till I was 30 years old. So at what point have I actually had a chance, particularly with GWAT and 4 combat deployments for almost 5 years in combat, have I had a chance to sit down and find out who is Adam Peters as a human being? Mm-hmm. Because my whole life, from the time I graduated high school to the time I'm 30 years old, is I have to be the best infantryman for the Army in service of global war on terror. So what does that mean? That means everything is focused on being the best infantryman I can be, because we're going to go to war, and I'm going to eventually have to lead people to war, and then I'm going to have to bring those people home, right? And so there's no time to figure out what resonates with me, what are my core beliefs and values and passions, because this is my job and this is what I'm going to do. And then you add to that, I was a career guy. I knew for a fact I was going to go to 22, and then a med board comes down at 13 years. And now I'm completely fucked because I have no plan. I had no plan whatsoever. Do you think that you experienced any element of that? You think that's what you were experiencing?
Well, I just, while you were talking, I don't know if you noticed me smile. I had this picture of 24, 26-year-old Adam. Were you in Iraq or Afghanistan?
Both. I did 3 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan.
So you're at a fob around like an MRE fire with your buddies going, all right, what makes you click?
Yeah, no.
Where's your inner purpose? That's not happening.
That's not happening. Yeah.
It's like you're sleeping for an hour while we do Firewatch. That's what we're dealing with today.
Right.
No, it's 100%, and that's why Mission Empower, our system, was built. If you look at it says Empower, Connect, Hire. Empower is number one because, the person that built our AI, he helped build the assessment program for the Navy SEALs. It was rolled out Special Forces wide, and he's currently the head of AI and assessment for Global Fortune 100, has over 300,000 assessments under his belt. What we talked about was that suicide rate and that disconnection of transition out of the military. And that's where the big rate comes in, is not being able to transfer purpose from uniform to corporate America. And a lot of times what happens is, one, you have that tight set aperture. Hey, I'm a grunt. I'm an infantry guy, so I'm going to go be a police officer, security guard, influencer, or ditch digger, right?
Or contractor, right? Because I had offers to go right back overseas doing contract. Yeah. Even as a conventional guy, like our skills, particularly with as much combat time as I had, they wanted that. But for me, none of that. I turned it down immediately. I was like, I just did all my time. I broke my body. My career is ending, and you want me to just go back and do the same thing?
Right. And war was a result not of following your purpose. It wasn't your purpose. Right. And so going, hey, just go back to war. Like, well, hold on. That's not where my purpose is. That's where my purpose led me. That's not where it is anymore. And so I'm 100% agreeing. That's why we built North Star, which is the first bot of Mission Empower. What North Star does, it's there to help you. One, it asks for your military experience. So it knows your rank, your MOS. Okay, great. These are your skills, leadership level things. But then it asks you a few personal questions to understand your motivations and your drivers.
Yes.
Then what it does is it explores career opportunities that match both.
I love this.
Hey, and it's amazing. And so then it goes, okay, like for me, hey, I've got a degree, a motor T. I did manage convoys in the past. Hey, let's talk about logistics supervisor, logistics manager. Let's talk about working in a warehouse. Let's talk about all these different ways. Well, hey, that doesn't really motivate me. Here's what motivates me. Oh, it looks like sales. Oh, it looks like influence. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, you should start your own company.
There it is. Well, right. And I love what you're talking about, because you built this assessment to kind of show them, what's in line with their career path. Or I'm actually working on building my own version of this, where it uses the MTBI and the DISC assessment to give you a legit, like, no shit, kind of career path, if you want to be an entrepreneur, or, this is what you would best be suited to do if you wanted to be an entrepreneur and run your own business, build your own business from the ground up. So I think you and I might have to compare notes,
I love it.
off camera, because I myself see the need for this. I'm fascinated by psychology. I have a degree in it, believe it or not. So the DISC and the MTBI, I think they're extremely useful tools and extremely revealing. I'm a little bit woo-woo because plant medicine changed my life, but I also believe in numerology and some stuff like that you can actually use to look at who you are as a person and try to better understand, who you are, what you value, and what direction you should be moving in. Because I know when I found that for myself, everything changed. Everything changes. It's like, I often say, like, when I got myself right, when I started taking care of myself, everything else started to fall into place where it's supposed to be. I didn't have to put any effort into it. And I think it's because I did some things to figure out what resonates with me and who I am as an individual without all the other stuff, right? Childhood trauma, the Army experience, combat, you name it, whatever shaped my life. I'm just a sum of all of those things put into this
Mm-hmm.
pot that have been blended together. And now I need to figure out, who does that actually make me?
Well, it's interesting you say that because so many people look external,
Yeah.
right, for that validation, for that path, for that understanding. Hey, I always say, don't follow somebody else's transition. Just
Ever.
because that worked for Joe or Jane doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But you're right. And this is another reason why I believe in the mission and power system is we're all men. We're not asking for directions, right? It's very hard for us to be vulnerable in front of other people, but in front of this inanimate object, I can be vulnerable. In front of this bot, I can be vulnerable and I can talk to it, and it can help me understand myself better than I can. And that's why I find that so important. And I'm so impressed. I mean, we launched this program on Veterans Day, right? It's a month old. And the usage is I mean, it's just going up due north, which is great, North Star. But the impact that we're hearing is just amazing because of that, because nobody knows where to start. How do I get my foot on the yellow brick road?
Yeah.
And this gets you your foot on there. What's cool is you go into this like entrepreneur, whatever program it is, whatever goal you have in your career, it'll talk to you about education that you should get, certifications you should look for. It'll help build that path for you, which is really interesting.
So let's move into what you're doing with veteran hiring solutions. Your transition. I mean, we've kind of beat a dead horse. It's really about purpose, direction, motivation. The same things it takes to be an NCO in the Army. We lose sight of all that stuff. So, you said that you really came up with this idea because of your interactions with others and recognizing these problems of not being able to translate military career MOS knowledge into civilian speak that aligns in a job with you. And you said something that was really interesting, right? Like you had experience as a motor transport guy leading convoys. Well, I as an infantryman had the same thing because I would be a patrol brief guy and I'd have to be responsible for 20 something vehicles moving down MSR Tampa to go pick up supplies and pull security and bring them back. And I think you're probably the guy that's going to help people a lot better than I am because this is your life's work. You've been doing it for 20 years and whatnot. I hadn't even thought of that till you said it, but it's like, oh shit. Like, and I'm a guy out here trying to help dudes transition, men and women, transition better. And I still miss some things, you know what I mean? So I think it's so important to have these conversations. So
Well, can I stop real quick? One thing you're talking about too is that we all have our own perspective,
correct.
our own view. And so when we're trying to help somebody, we can't help but help it through our own lens,
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
and that's why I love this agnostic tool that's not going to have judgments or, hey, I'm going to list a guy, I'm talking to an officer, I've got my own preconceived notions, something like that, right? It's like, no, hey, here you go. Here's a safe space. I love that. But one thing about the infantry guys I want to talk about, because I really believe the soft guys, the infantry guys, the non-tech, and I say guys in the lazy English, everybody, those are the ones that need the most amount of help because they have the deepest purpose that resonates in their soul. And if they miss that, that's where bad things happen, is to understand that most likely they're social people. They may not realize that, and they may go somewhere that's not social. As an infantry leader, you're really good at influencing people and making things happen that have to happen. So maybe you go into sales. But then you realize when you make a sale, you don't turn around and high five your team. It's an individual sport. So these are different things that you can explore to make sure that, hey, you're not just following something you think is good. You can really have that reflective conversation and make sure that it's going to make you want to wake up.
I'll do it, and I'm here to tell you, you just nailed that. I don't think anybody's nailed exactly what I felt so perfectly in almost 100 of these episodes, because as an infantry guy who went to war a bunch, that purpose does run deep. And I used to think I wasn't a social person. I was angry. I was, in my own head, whatever, all of those things that come with, a decade plus at war. I didn't realize that I was social. And what's funny is, since I've started doing all of this, I'm actually extremely social, so much so that I didn't give myself this label, but people have called me a super connector.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. Like, they've told me that I can build a business by building a network. And I was like, that's possible. You can do that? What? I enjoy talking to people, right? It's
Hey,
like, oh shit.
I'm here to tell everybody that's watching right now, that is everything in life. Your connections and your network is everything. Now,
Yeah.
the results will be your job and your family and everything else. But at the core of that, when you stripe away the onion, it's who you surround yourself with and who you communicate with.
Yeah, man. And so let's talk about, how did you get pushed into founding Veteran Hiring Solutions? Why go all in on this, and how do you do it different? What are those guys and gals out there who are transitioning right now? What can they expect from Veteran Hiring Solutions that are going to move them forward, that make you better, or maybe not even better, but just maybe a better fit for them than some of these other, headhunting companies that are out? And I've seen this, right? Like, I had an opportunity to present to a SkillBridge, program, tell them about entrepreneurship. It was awesome. It was really humbling. And some of the messages I got after that: thank you for being authentic. Thank you for not wanting anything from us. Thank you for just wanting to inform us of what options are out there. Because I guess the experience they're getting in these SkillBridge programs is, it's a bunch of recruiters coming out to try and convince you to join their company without giving you any kind of inkling that it's a good fit for you or not. And I really don't like that, because I know you've seen this. Veterans will jump at the first job that pays them the same as they're making when they get out, in desperation, because they usually have a family and a mortgage, and we've already talked about that. And so I want people to understand that you can avoid all of that, and you can find something that pays you what you're making currently, that isn't going to make you completely miserable, and honestly, I'm sorry, but make you want to kill yourself. And I've talked to hundreds of them, hundreds of people that will go to their spouse, or that will come to me and be like, look, dude, this is taking everything out of me. I don't want to live if I have to keep doing this job. So, how did you arrive here? And just give us the whole thing, man.
Well, one, the thing that resonates about that last part, was like, we're such a loyal group too, that we make a bad decision and we just sit in the pot, just sit in that stew and just turn up the heat, man. Like, everything's fine. The flames are going. It's like, no, I should probably go for another job. No, I told him I'd commit for a year.
Yeah.
So, that's another part to think about. Well, I had gone through an evolution throughout the years of understanding, hey, the job description is the greatest barrier to entry for a veteran. People don't realize the job description was created during the early 1900s. It was implemented during the Great Depression. 24% unemployment, where a company said, hey, I need to build the biggest barriers, the biggest walls, so only the perfect guy can make it through, person. And here we are, labor participation rates at the ceiling. It has been at the ceiling for a very long time. And we don't have a lot of experience to exploit. You got to look for talent. And that's what the military is, right? We've talked about service. We've talked about parasailing. We've talked about combat, what it does to you as a human. It makes you a high performer. It makes you green and growing, right? It makes you truly understand that safety programs are there for a reason. All these things that companies want. But what's the first thing a company does in an interview? They take the human out. They hold on. Let's look at this experience exploitation document called a resume, and and see how it matches up against this other document called a job description. So what I did is I started building performance-based job descriptions. So that's where you start walking that human through the role. Hey, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to have to overcome. These are the hurdles. Really just put it in our language. And that lets that veteran make that connection going, oh, okay, that connects with this. And then they can come to the table and say, hey, here's how this connects to that. So that was step one. And that was going really well. I started that coming right out of the Great Recession, 2010, 11. And it made me the top salesperson at my organization for that decade or so. If I wasn't one, I was two. And then I started having some high volume needs. And I felt like, hey, instead of me telling this person the same pitch over and over, let me just record it. And I said, wow, that really works because I can tighten it up. And then my daughter, my 12-year-old, said, Dad, I want a cell phone. I said, oh, God, that's scary. So I read this book called The Cyber Effect, and I learned a lot. One, our brain doesn't know the difference between 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional communication, our subconscious. That's why if you're watching a war movie, right?
Yeah.
The mirror neurons kick on, everything, because your subconscious is in that. And also, subconsciouses connect, like minds connect. That's why if you go to a party, right, all of a sudden you gravitate to somebody, and then you have a 2-hour conversation. Subconsciously, guys already connected, and then verbally you confirm that connection. Yeah. So what we started doing video-based job descriptions. So that's where we bring the hiring manager on camera, and that hiring manager delivers the commander's intent of the role. Hey, what's right look like in this position? What are the hurdles this human's going to have to overcome when they first get there? What's long-term success look like? And we're highlighting that hiring manager to make sure like minds connect, so we're not getting that oil and water conversation anymore. And then that manager can deliver commander's intent. Hey, this is this is the human I'm looking for. This is what you need to be able to accomplish. And so that really sparked something special.
Yeah, this is awesome because I can't tell you how many jobs I've had where I get there, on day one, and whoever the big boss is, you just don't vibe with them. You're not going to get along with them. And I have a mouth because I'm an infantry guy, right? So it doesn't end well. You know what I mean? And I think that's awesome, dude. Like something else I wanted to ask you about with the job descriptions. I know this seems to be a big problem even today for veterans I talk to who are, going out and looking for jobs. And I've experienced this myself. He must have 10 years experience in this role. And it's like, well, fuck, how am I supposed to get 10 years experience when you're labeling this job as an entry level job, but I've got to have 10 years? That doesn't fucking make sense. So what happens is either A, you apply and you don't have the relevant experience that they're asking for. So the algorithm kicks your resume out immediately and you never get it seen. Or B, we just don't apply. We're just like, well, disqualified from that one, even though that job could probably be I know I've seen some for myself back before I, made myself unemployable that I was like, man, I would love to have this job, but there's the one thing standing in my way. So I'm not going to apply for that.
Yeah. People don't realize is veterans self-select out of job positions more than anybody else because we're safe operators. Right? Hey, I don't have that. I'm not qualified. I don't want to touch it.
See ya. Why waste time?
Yep. So that's why I felt like veteran hiring solutions should be a direct hire, headhunting, third-party recruiter, whatever you want to call it, because that's how you get inside that organization and get real buy-in. If you're a subscription program or you're some type of like app, right? We've already talked about this. All good growth is felt. And that's not going to be felt by anybody, but by that hiring manager getting on camera and contributing their most valuable asset, their time. Now they've felt that job description. They've felt that role. They've invested themselves into it. So now when that veteran comes through, it's open for them to have a conversation. So the long-term goal here is to educate these hiring authorities that we partner with on the value of doing this way for everything, right? Production, get rid of the 1900s, early 1900s job description, go into the human language of performance-based. And guess what? Certain roles are worth, especially if you're looking for performance-based sales roles, right? Video, look at the human, right? So this is starting as a veteran hiring program, but it's going to expand.
Of course. This is really cool, man. Because there's so many places we can go with this. You keep mentioning sales roles, and I do know that at least in my own research, it seems sales roles seem to be like I don't even know exponentially lopsided in opportunities for veterans, from tech sales to myself in insurance sales to whatever that looks like right now. What advice do you have? Why do you think, first of all, you mentioned that we're social creatures, particularly more the soft infantry guys, conventional forces, maybe not the support MOSs. They do have a lot to fall back on, as far as experience and walking into civilian jobs. But why do you think sales is so lopsided and kind of where everybody's being funneled into from the military?
It's a performance-based role, and service to country makes you a high performer. And you're green and growing, right? How do you stay alive in combat? Green and growing, man. Right? Outsmart the enemy. What worked? What's the first thing you do when you go outside the wire? Go to plan B, right? Like,
Immediately. Yeah.
yeah, like, okay, good. There's fire from the right. I thought it was coming over here. So that's what makes salespeople so good. Is that people don't realize, as an infantry person going through Afghanistan, right? You go through a village, get all the bad guys out of there, and then you got to come back and get the team back on your. You got to get the village on your side, right? You have to be a strong communicator, influencer. You got to be an active listener, right? You got to be able to read people, and that's what military service does, which makes you a great salesperson. And we talked about this earlier too. Open, authentic, right? You got to be open, authentic, vulnerable, right? You've got to be these type of people that, one thing I find is that service, people go, how can you be vulnerable? And I say, well, I'm strong enough and dominant enough that I feel safe to be vulnerable, right? Because I know I could be vulnerable, and if you come at me, I can also defend myself.
Right.
So,
You don't want to meet that monster.
right. So that's what sales is that you have that quiet confidence, but that quiet confidence also shows vulnerability to the other person and that you're listening to them. And I think that's why salespeople that's why veterans do so good in sales. But make sure you're doing the right sales, right? Inside sales, what I do, these four corners this is it, right? So I've got to find ways to be social outside of work. I got to find ways to stay social. And we talked about this before we came on camera. Those infantry leaders are great high performers, great salespeople, but they're also very social for the most part. They may not admit it right now, but they're very social. So when you got to do that high
Yeah.
five to yourself, it's just not the same.
And I love that you point out, like, it's got to be the right type of sales, because I started my first real sales role was knocking doors, selling final expense to the poorest 1/3 of Americans. So now I'm selling an intangible product that's got financial literacy tied to it. And man, it was a tough sell. I went broke doing it, actually, is what happened, because I didn't know about chargebacks and stuff like that. So what advice do you have? How does your program kind of help people identify the type of sales that they would be best for? Is
Yes.
so mission empowerment
Yeah.
is part of that, huh?
Yeah. North Star is all about that. It's
Yeah.
going to talk to you about social aspects. Do you need, I mean, some people, right? Hey, I want to be a project manager. Every officer getting out says that, JMO. It's like, cool. What type project? Because some project managers sitting in front of a computer all day. That's going to drive you nuts, right? Now there's construction. Maybe you're out on the site and stuff like that, but that general term can go many ways. And so that's why North Stars was the last bot we built. And it was because we knew BMAX, our interview prep thing, was tight. Everybody loved it. Civil affairs that helps you communicate effectively in corporate America, everybody loved that. But we're missing the point. And our developer said, hey, the highest rate of suicide is transitioning out and not getting a career with purpose. That's our number one rate of suicide. And he goes, we need to fix that. And I said, you're right. And so North Star was born.
And I love the North Star concept, because if you come to me for coaching, you can try and manipulate me, you can pull the wool over my eyes, but I think it's a lot harder with a bot, because output's going to equal input. So if you're giving it a line of bullshit, it's going to keep kicking you back a line of bullshit. If you give it the truth, it's going to kick you back exactly what you need to do.
Well, it's like the internet and social media, right? You put an ounce in, you get a gallon back. So if you put an ounce of negativity in your social media feed, you're going to get a gallon back of negativity. And so it's the same thing with all these bots. Now we've got them firewalled and we've got them, There's a lot of intel in there that is every MOS has been downloaded into it. It's been all of them been emoted to feel pride in helping you find employment. And we've tried to firewall as we'd probably say in the military community, the stupid from getting in. Um, you know,
Oh, I love
so
it.
yeah, so that's where we're at. And then we didn't even cover the BMAX side.
Let's
So
go.
once
Let's talk about the BMAX side.
so BMAX is my favorite. Well, I don't know. North Star started to become my favorite. It's like I got 3 kids in real life, and I got 3 kids at work.
I was gonna say, honestly,
But
it
this
sounds like they're all your favorite. You're
I
just kind
know
of in the moment when you want to talk about them. The next one becomes my most favorite. I get it,
it's
dude. I
it.
get
Yeah, yeah.
it.
So what's cool about BMAX is you upload your job description, you upload your resume, and if you know who's going to interview you, you can go to LinkedIn, go to their LinkedIn, and you can just download their LinkedIn profile. It's a PDF file, and then you upload that into BMAX, and BMAX will interview you for that role. Use that person's persona to help with interview questions.
So is this interview prep kind of deal? Like this is like a no bullshit kind of like a mock interview that you're going through with this software based on a LinkedIn profile, a job description, and your resume?
Yep. So it's interviewing you for that job, and it's giving you actionable feedback for that interview. So
That's so cool.
right before it was, hey guys, know the STAR method and network.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to teach you. And the number one question BMAX is helping everybody answer: why do you want to work here? It's such a throwaway question. It happens in the first interview. You're like, because you're within a commuting distance. I have bills to pay,
Right.
and you guys are hiring.
Yeah. I mean, couldn't be more. That's the logical brain talking, though, right? Like that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs telling us, I know I need a job because I need to put food on the table, and this doesn't suck up a whole lot of my time, right?
Yeah,
Like,
like this is the yeah. So what BMAX does is one, it knows who you're interviewing with, right? What company, what all that, and so it'll provide you information. Well, did you know this company just built this product? Do you know that they just built this plant? Do you know that they have this market share? Do you know? So that question comes, hey man, why do you want to work here? Well, hey, because of your blah 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 blah, and they go, I didn't even know that.
right. So you can go and throw because you have 73% of market share in this ideal. I see you just opened this factory, and long-term growth of this company says that I will have job stability that I'm looking for.
And what happened, right? And that's the general, but right, your human intuition and curiosity is going to take over, and you're going to be asking BMAX questions. It's going to bring you more information that you want to know.
Right.
So why I want to work here is, yeah, those facts that come out of the internet right away, but you're going to naturally attract yourself to certain facts
Well,
and
and I
talk to
think I think
BMAX
this
about
is
that.
cool, man, because now you can ask BMAX questions, and it could spark interest in this job you didn't even know that you had, making you an even better candidate for this role. Because, like what you were saying, is you can go to this interview with this hiring manager, you could drop some kind of nugget based on what BMAX conversation you had. That is like, oh, I didn't even like. That's a really good idea. We need to hire this dude now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of
Well,
thing.
and so the beauty of our performance-based job description and our commander's intent videos is operational leaders are talking to operational people. And so those veterans are going, oh man, I know how to fix that. Because at the front we go, what hurdles do they have to overcome?
Yeah.
So what we're getting is candidates are applying to our opportunities. Here's the resume, and then here's 3 paragraphs of how I can fix his problem. And so
Oh,
you go,
it's so
hey Joe,
cool.
here's Mike, and here's how he's going to fix your problem. And they go, oh, when can I talk to Mike?
So this is almost like I remember when it was like it was standard practice to put solutions focused on your resume, right? But you can actually come and present as a solution focused guy because or gal, because now you've done this prep, you've used this tool, it's actually given you actionable solutions to the problems that are going on inside of this organization that maybe they're not even aware of, which then highlights your unique skill set in the fact that you are an operator, right? And you are a high performance individual. This is so cool, man. I think this is amazing, dude.
Well, you know what's great is every time I talk to a corporate hiring authority, they go, you've probably hear this all the time, but I've never heard anything like this. And I go, yeah, I'm the only one in the world that has it. And they're like, wow, how do I sign up? Like
What
our
is it?
corporate partners come as fast as I can get to them, to be honest with you.
What does that feel like?
It feels, I got to tell you, it feels, sorry, I got a little choked up. Um, it feels like we're going to make a real impact soon.
You should
You
be
know what I
proud of
mean?
yourself, brother.
The community that's rallied around us, the people that have volunteered their time for us, the people that have joined our company just out of blind faith is nothing but amazing. And I feel a weight of responsibility because I truly feel we're at somewhere where we can make a big impact and we can help, and that we can really look a year, 3 years from now and go, holy crap, look at what numbers we increased employment. Look what numbers we decreased
Suicide.
suicide.
Yes.
That's how I feel.
And that's what it's about, man. And I need to make an introduction to you. I don't know how the collaboration would work, but if you haven't been introduced to him off of LinkedIn yet, his name's Brad Tachi. He runs Best Military Resume.
I know Brad well. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Brad's awesome, dude.
What
Another guy leading with purpose.
yeah, man. And dude, it's so cool to get to watch his journey with BMR, and every week it's a new guy getting or gal getting a federal job, or just generally changing lives, doing something similar to you. And you've been talking this whole time. I've been thinking about it. Like, if he doesn't know Brad, he needs to know Brad, because I see some kind of collaboration opportunity for you guys somehow, some way.
It's like, I say the theme of 2025 is decentralized.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of decentralization. We're seeing it with Bitcoin, and we're seeing it but we're also seeing it in the staffing market. There's a lot of dinosaurs, antiquated processes that are just kind of floating along, and we're seeing a lot of veterans like Brad coming together and go, I got a faster way to do this, cheaper. Like, here we go, fix it. And they're just fixing problems. And it's just so cool to see.
I've got another guy I need to hook you up with. He runs Red 7 Strategy Group. His name's Matthew Kemp. He's a staffing agency as well. I think you two would get along well and have some really good ideas. But it's just really cool, man. Like you said, like, watching all this stuff come together, the decentralization, and it kind of goes along with kind of my new motto. I'm about collaboration, not competition. The internet is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. I don't give a shit what anybody says. There is a piece for every single person on the planet to get more money and time back than they ever thought possible if you just stop fighting one another and just collaborate with one another. I would rather have, bits and pieces of 100 different things over here than have 100% of one thing that's going nowhere.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, the number of veteran recruiting firms that I've communicated with since I've started here, anyone that I know of, I can think of, right? Like, we've had conversations with, and especially the veteran owned ones, that are employee, the founder owned. They're really leaning into how to service better.
Yeah.
Understanding that tech is that ability to make it an individualized process for each veteran instead of that standard no star network. Like that network. I told them to network.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That being said, if you're a job seeking veteran and you're not on LinkedIn and you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you're wrong.
100%, man. Right, 100%. And I, back in 2013, 2012. Yeah.
Happy to help.
It's some leader I had told me, hey, you're going to be getting out at some point. Get a LinkedIn. This is what Fortune 500 companies are using now. In addition to a resume, you need to have some kind of professional online appearance. Yeah, shit. I created the profile, and that's about as much as I did until November of last year, and I'm blown away by what is capable, like what you're capable of accomplishing by starting a personal brand on LinkedIn. And really, it can just be your first and last name. It doesn't have to be some kind of elaborate what I've got going on with a logo and all of that. Just start building your personal brand, because if I can go from 92 to over 6,000 followers in a year, so can you. And the opportunity that's been created and everything else, I get to have conversations like this with people who I just met today because, I met one of your employees, right? And working with him. And it's just amazing to follow how all of this comes together. And you're right. I agree with you. If you're not on LinkedIn, you're wrong.
Well, and also, here's a little fact, right? We're 10% of the U.S. populace. We're 5.5% of the U.S. workforce. Right now, as of Friday, we have a 2.8% unemployment rate. So that's about 240,000 vets looking for work. I think you would agree with this. The further we get away from uniform, the more we like to help those in uniform,
Yeah,
right? We love to
100%.
have that connection. So as somebody getting out of the military, build that LinkedIn. Go ahead, put a little picture of you in uniform. Nothing wrong with that. Post a little bit about your transition, your MOS, what you're doing. Get a little personal, open, vulnerable, right? Authentic and vulnerable. And watch the community come in and watch the community come to help. And then as you're researching companies, you're researching opportunities, go on LinkedIn, go to that company and look for veterans inside that company. Who cares what their job is? They're working inside that company. They're inside the wire. Connect with them, communicate, network, learn from them. And then when the right job comes up at the right time, they're going to help you because that's what we do.
That's it. It's really that simple. I do it on a daily basis. If you DM me on LinkedIn, I will do whatever I can to help you out. I even say that when you connect with me, like, hey, thanks for the connection. If there's ever anything I can do to help, don't be a stranger. Feel free to reach out. It's really
Yeah,
that
same here.
simple.
Yeah, and I give anybody connects with me, I always send them over the Mission Empower bots just in case they are at that point in their life that they know there's a safe place. And then, hey, we're here if we can help.
Justin, dude, you're so full of information and I love what you're doing, man. How can
Thank you.
people find you? How can they get in touch with you? How can they take advantage of all of the great things that you're building?
Yeah, no, great. So our website, veteranhiringsolutions.com. It's our program is Mission Empower. So you can go to the website in the very top, you'll see it says access Mission Empower, but also it's just Veteran Hiring Solutions /Mission Empower. I'm very proud. I built the Mission Empower site myself. Marine crayon eater over here. I've got animation. I've got pictures. I'm really proud. Really proud. Check it out. And then on LinkedIn, I've got 29,000 followers. So I'll be easy to fire. Justin Hendo Henderson. You'll find me pretty easy. Connect with me there. And then if you want to reach out to me via email, hendo@veteranhiringsolutions.com will get me. So I'm here if I can help with anything.
Dude, I love it. What's the future look like for veteran hiring solutions, mission empowerment, BMAC, all that good stuff? Where are you going?
God, I don't know. So I know that Mission Empower is being tested right now on a base. So there's a group of transitioning people using it right now. So I'm excited to see where that goes. Um, and we have a lot, I tell you, the corporate hiring authorities, what I love so much about Mission Empower, it's really the video based job description, but that every hiring authority goes, oh, that's leadership. That's
Duh.
intangible. We can get the
Duh.
intangibles, right? And so they go, I don't need you for this maintenance tech role because it's a pump's a pump, Ohm's law is Ohm law. We're going to use you for it, but really it's leadership, process improvement, right? All the things that we crave that we're good at for military service. So I think we're going to continue to be able to enable those type of leaders to get good jobs. My ultimate goal here, I'll give it to you. My ultimate goal is once we have enough adoption and our brand is big enough, I want to create video resumes for our infantry soft leaders because what happens is you become a superhuman, high performer, green and growing, problem solver, safe operator, you name it, right? Due north human, right? Understand the value of that purpose. But your resume is about 7 or 8 lines. It's not much meat on the bone. So if I can get a video of that human talking about leadership, what it means to them, right? What purpose, everything. And I send that to the hiring authority. That hiring authority is going to go, I want to talk to Adam. I'll go, great. Adam's available at 3 o'clock on Thursday. I'll attach his resume to the invite. So now they're looking for reasons to say yes instead of no. So my ultimate goal next year, 2025, is to start doing that.
And I think you're onto something so much because, as an infantry guy myself, remembering writing resumes, they're supposed to be one page and, there's certain things that have to be on there. And then you leave out so much of what makes you or qualified for that job. And I think, man, I can't wait to see what happens with this. I can't wait to see all the success stories and the social proof because the fact that you're already testing this on a base, man, you're kind of living my dream. I want the strategic veteran to become a transition program. And maybe there's a way we can work together to create that program because of the tools that you have and, just kind of the philosophies that I have and being able to teach veterans how to sit with themselves and figure out who they are. This is what I mean
think,
by collaboration. Like this, I have an ultimate, long-term goal of becoming a program, a transition program, and you're obviously headed in that direction. You're testing it on a military base right now, and that's what I mean about collaboration. We don't have to compete with one another. We can come together, put our heads together, and make it better for everybody.
Yeah, it's not like Veteran Hiring Solutions is helping 238,000 veterans right now. That's how many job seekers there are, right? We're all doing our piece. We're all trying to do our part. And I 100% agree that collaboration is where we're going to go down the road. I mean, what you've done with Doug, and it's amazing. And thank you. And I'll say it 100 times. It's just amazing. And we've got oars in the water, and that's what you're seeing. You're seeing everybody oars in the water, living their life and their purpose. And what's happening, just like this, we're coming together, we're meeting each other, doing our thing, and then we're coming back together. Hey man, I got this, you got this. And so it's a really exciting time to be in this space.
It's so cool, man. Dude, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for all of your insights, extremely valuable insights. I've got to figure out a way to put this episode out immediately because I know the value and how much this will help our community. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, please like, rate, review, subscribe, download. Help me get this show in front of 1 million veterans by the time I turn 40 on May 9th, 2025. We got a little less than, right at 6 months to get this done. There's 19 million veterans in the United States, so there's no reason that we can't accomplish that goal. And it really only takes 2 seconds of your time to share this with somebody, and then 2 seconds of their time to share it with somebody else. Before you know it, we're over 1 million views. I'd really appreciate that, not for me, but for our entire community, because I think conversation changes lives. I know if I would have had this show when I was at my darkest place, I would have avoided a lot of mistakes. So the more people we can get this in front of, the better off our community will be. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, take care. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll be bringing you another heater next week. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at the Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.